guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dono Sir. I know, just kidding. So I'm sorry I missed last Wednesday. I'm just moving things around. I'm getting ready for the holidays, so bear with me, okay? So with that being said, I see you, Steven. Don't do it. Leave me alone. So with that being said, let's get on with today's case. Warning, the following presentation is intended for mature audiences. This case contains graphic descriptions of a crime scene photos, dialogue, and as well as strong language. Viewer discretion is advised. I know I already have my lashes and some of my basic makeup on, but just because this is going to be a short story, that's why I went ahead and did, this whole ordeal. So, on July 26 of 2006, San Antonio police received a very disturbing phone call. I'll go ahead and cue that recording.
Oh my God.
San Antonio Fire, New Mexico. How can we help you?
I needed ambulance at 351 Wayside Drive.
351 Wayside? Is
Yes.
it a house or an apartment?
It's a house. It's an emergency.
Okay, and what's going on? What's the emergency?
I'm sorry?
What's the emergency? What's going on?
My sister she's her child.
Hello?
Hello?
Tell me what's going on. Don't talk to the other people. Talk to me.
My sister she's hurt her child. Seriously, hurt her child.
How did she do that? What's going on with the child?
The baby is dead. She has...
What did you say?
The baby is dead.
How old is the baby?
The baby's 3 weeks, not even 3 weeks old.
3 weeks old?
Not even 3 weeks old, please.
What did she do to him?
Oh,
Or her?
she stabbed him. There's blood all over the bed. I don't know.
All right, ma'am. Stay on the line. We're going to connect you up to the police, okay? Stay on the line.
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Go ahead.
Ma'am, what is your name? My name is Priscilla Garcia. Where is your sister at? Just stay there, Otty. Stay there. I'm sorry? Priscilla, where's your sister at? She's just sitting on the couch. She's gone crazy last night. She was hearing voices. She kept bringing me the baby, and finally she calmed down, and I took her back to baby. And then now I just woke up to her screaming. Okay, how old is the baby? Not even 3 weeks old. The baby's dead. The baby's dead. Please, somebody come. Okay, they're on their way, buddy, okay? I need the keys so I can open the front door. Oh, my God.
Ma'am? Ma'am?
Yes.
Do not touch the baby. Don't disturb anything in the area there, okay?
My mom was holding the baby. My mom was holding the baby.
Yeah, so we jumped right into it, right? Right into it. So 34-year-old Otty Sanchez, she ended up grabbing a butcher knife from her mother's kitchen that she was staying at, and quietly she crept back to the room where her and her baby was. And as soon as she made it back into her bedroom, that is when she brutally attacked her almost 3-week-old baby. And by this, she ended up proceeding to mutilate the baby by chewing off 3 of his toes, almost fully cutting his head off, as well as eating some of his brains. So yeah, it's going into that. So, but before we continue with that, let's go back and get to the beginning. So, Otty Sanchez was born in 1976, where she grew up in a very, big household, which included 7 other of her family members, as well as more family members in one household. So you can already know how that might feel being so bundled up. And with that, her dad wasn't in the picture. He don't exist. He's not. No, we don't know her. And well, with that, her mom ended up working multiple jobs, as well as just being the main breadwinner of the household. And with that, her mom working a lot, sometimes they had to move, and so that as well meant Otty had to move to new schools. So she felt that pressure already. She already felt that, like, damn, different schools, almost every couple months. And by the age of 5, she started to hear voices. And again, she's 5 years old, hearing voices. And at that time, she would say that the voices weren't evil, they weren't mean. They were more like she would hear, I guess, her subconscious telling her, like, keep going, you can do this, you got this. But there was this one bully ass voice named Lucy. And Lucy was a bitch. Lucy would tell Otty in her mind, hey, you should hurt yourself. But not only that, Lucy would also tell Otty, hey, instead of also hurting yourself, like, you should eat yourself, cannibalize herself. And well, this was, the voices in her head were left untreated because no one in her family took notice of that. Everybody saw Otty as a well-headed girl, like she wasn't any trouble, she was a good girl, she wasn't getting into trouble. And like I said, the good voices outweighed that bad one, Lucy. And Otty was such a good student, such a good girl, that she graduated high school in San Antonio with a decent average that helped her pursue a career in pharmacy technician. And it was at this time during, in 2003, during her studies, that she met a guy named Charles. And off the bat, this guy and her, they were just bad. They were just a really bad relationship. They were the kind of relationship that as soon as you woke up, she was already getting ready to pack her shit, him as well, to leave the relationship. But as soon as it came down to it, by the end of the day, they were helping each other and pack their shit. So it was one of those. So if you know what kind of relationship is that. A very toxic one. Obviously, this being a very, dysfunctional relationship, the bad voices ended up increasing. So she decided on her own to get, mental help, go to the doctor, explain what was going on with her. And that's when they ended up giving her medicine. But the medicine ended up heightening Lucy. It ended up making Lucy's voice specifically higher. So no matter how many good voices she had, Lucy was the main one being loud as hell. So it just made things worse. So Otty began displaying, weird behavior, stealing, taking things, just being very, very bad. And at that, it ended up costing her pharmacy job. And that's when she started, bouncing from job to job, at being in fast food, or at times working as a provider, those providers that help the viejitos, the old people, or the disabled. And I guessing around the year 2008, she quote unquote was feeling a little better. That around that time, she ended up tagging along with one of her friends to go to Austin. And the reason the friend just herself wanted to go to Austin was because she wanted to go see an acupuncturist, with the ones with the needles. And from there, Otty ended up tagging along with her. And as Otty was waiting for her friend, seeing this acupuncturist, Otty was like, you know what, I'm gonna go walk around. There's a CVS across the street, I'm gonna go there. So she did. Otty did, and she was there for quite some time. She was there for a long ass time that the people there at the pharmacy at CVS kind of became suspicious of her, like something was up, because she was there for a couple of hours. Even her friend called her, even checking there, and she would say, no, I'm not there, I was gone, I dipped. And the people there at CVS obviously ended up calling, police, saying, she's being suspicious, we just want you to check her out. And Austin's police responded to that. They ended up showing up to the CVS, and they ended up seeing the state that Otty was in. So they ended up, admitting her to the Austin State Hospital, where she was getting some help. And for around there, after 16 days later, Otty now being, there at the Austin State Hospital for, a couple of days now, she went under various tests, and she was finally diagnosed as a schizophrenic. And during this time, Otty's mom, Manuela Sanchez, she became concerned because she knew her daughter went with her friend in Austin to just take a trip, but she never heard back from Otty. So her thinking, esa pinche huerca fue up to party or something, or she got, stuck somewhere and she hasn't called me. So worried, obviously, her mom ended up calling police. And as soon as, Manuela, Otty's mom, ended up saying who her daughter was, police told her, like, hey, we admitted her to this hospital due to the fact of how she was acting, to get help with her mental issues. But Manuela was like very adamant, like, no, nothing's wrong with her, she's fine, like, why would you take her there, etc., etc. But meanwhile, her mom was trying to get into the police, like, why would you do that, this and that. Otty was getting the help that she needed, and she was being really well, she was getting the help that she actually needed, and it was helping her. So then they ended up transferring her to another help clinic in San Antonio, where she would end up becoming an outpatient. So basically, she was able to come in and out, or stay there, but be able to have the freedom of going out. And at this time, she claimed that her paranoia was, you know, a little spikened. It was getting there. It was getting there, and she was also suffering from delusions. So she was able to get more diagnoses there, getting more help. So she was able to get that free counseling and the free medication at that time. But unfortunately, with that clinic or whatever kind of program that she was with, they ended up getting, you know, budget cuts. And that just sucks ass, because imagine getting all this help that you needed and you're finally feeling like, oh my god, feeling yourself without having to deal with these voices or these emotions, and just for it to just be taken away from you. And so sadly, it came down to, you know, Otty, in September of 2008, it came down to Otty to make a very tough choice. And it was either paying for that stuff, the treatment, the medication, or to just cut it off, because she wasn't even able to afford one or the other. So she wasn't able to compromise of like, okay, pues you know what, I can't do the counseling, so I'll get the medication, or I can't do the medication, I'll do the counseling. And she couldn't do both. She couldn't do either one. So a huevo, she had to sadly she just had to like cut it off, and that just sucks. And she did try to apply for government benefits to help her with the program, or with money or something, but she stated that the process of doing it was just so intense, or just overwhelming for her, that she was just like, no, like just frustrated, like, no, I'm not doing it, I'm not even touching that, like, it's no, it was just too much for her. So she just let it go. So already stopping taking her medication, she, as soon after all that happened, she ended up reconnecting with an old flame, and getting into a relationship with that person right away. She ended up getting in a relationship with Scott, one of her ex-boyfriends, or an ex-sling. And not even a few weeks later, after getting together, you know, Otty ended up getting pregnant, you know. And at that, the pregnancy, from what I read, it was a smooth pregnancy. There was no problem. She wasn't suffering from delusions or anything like that. She hardly heard the voices, you know, I guess from feeling so happy, or you know, overwhelmed with emotions of expecting a little one. And she did mention it to her doctor that she was feeling a little bit blue, she was feeling a little bit depressed, and the doctor did recommend her and prescribed her an antidepressant. He prescribed her a antidepressant. But Otty, still being pregnant with her baby, she was like, no, I do not want none of that in my body if I'm still carrying my baby. So that was understandable. You don't want nothing like that to affect your baby. So right after, you know, that, on June the 30th of 2009, Otty ended up giving birth to a beautiful baby boy named Scott Weasley Buchholz Sanchez. Don't make fun of the name, that's how it is. But that was okay. She ended up giving birth on June 30th of 2009, and during her labor, she ended up suffering from a very serious infection, to the point where she had to wear a catheter. Now, if you ever wore that, being a woman, yo apenas aguanté eso for 2 nights. Like, being a C-section mama, I barely could stand that for 2 nights. I could only imagine her wearing that for a week, because that shit hurts going in, and it hurts even more coming out. And peeing out, it's not even normal. It's freaking weird. It's just, what the heck, you know? So I can already imagine her mood being so down. So it was like that. She ended up feeling even more fastidiada, more enojona, more in a mood, because she had to deal with that. So Otty's OBGYN ended up later prescribing her an antipsychotic medication, but Otty was complaining about it. She was complaining about the fact that it was making her too tired, too drowsy to do anything. So exactly 17 days later, she stopped taking the medications after that. And which it was okay, because the doctor did require her for to stop to get all that stuff out, because he was planning to give her a new prescription, and that prescription was going to help her out a lot. But around this time too, exactly on, you know, a couple days before she was going to get that new prescription, she ended up getting into it with Big Scott, you know, her baby daddy or her boyfriend at the time. And it was at this time, July 20th, that she ended up getting into a big fight with Scott. And she ended up moving out, and she ended up moving back in with her mom and her sister. And which that same day she visited an old clinic, and she would go and tell them, complaining like, I'm suffering again from paranoia, my stress is to like another level, it's at the max. And she would just describe to the counselor that there was nurses there that she was thinking that were trying to take her baby, that they were trying to breastfeed her own baby. And the counselor already saw like, okay, yeah, she needs help. So with that, he saw like, you know what, he was already taking it down, like, okay, she's suffering from something. And as soon as he was trying to take notes down, trying to figure out like, hey, but what is it, she also ended up stating that she would see other children's faces on her baby. And that was like, the doctor was like, okay, yeah, no, you need a break, you need to like see someone. So he, you know, he pretty much said she's suffering from postpartum psychosis. And with that, she needed to be immediately, you know, have a psychiatric evaluation. So he ended up calling the other clinic, telling them like, hey, send me an ambulance, she needs help soon, she needs to be evaluated again just to make sure, but this needs to be done ASAP. So that same day, Methodist Hospital ended up taking her in at 11:39, and she waited all the way until 12:05, where she was examined by nurses physically and lab work, and they stated that physically she was okay, she was healthy, nothing was wrong with her physically. So then by the time it was 3:00 p.m. that same day, she was examined by the psychiatric counselor there. And during that time, during that almost 45 minute evaluation, he pretty much said that she's just suffering from hallucinations, and that's pretty much it. That there was no sign of anything else, no signs of postpartum psychosis. And even with Otty begging, because she wasn't asking, she was begging for help, okay? Begging for someone to listen to her, to take it serious that something was wrong with her, that she couldn't be with her baby, she couldn't be alone. So the counselor ended up making a decision on one basic question. And they made this decision by asking her, are you homicidal, are you suicidal? And obviously Otty, not being in her right state of mind, she might not be honest too. So she just said, no, I'm not suffering from either. So with that, they ended up pretty much sending her home. And just to cover their asses, they decided to give her a flyer on how to deal with anxiety. Something that she wasn't even asking help with. You know, maybe she did have a bit of it, but she had bigger problems here. So it didn't click on why they gave her that flyer. And supposedly on that flyer, it had information on the clinic, on the counselor supposedly, and the phone number and the address on where they can locate them and where to reach them if she needed any more help. So they left it at that. And later on, during the trial, her lawyer states that that flyer did not have shit on it. That flyer did not have anything that can help her to reach out for help. It didn't have the address to the clinic. It didn't have the phone number to the clinic. It didn't even have at least the counselor's name. So she knew it was that hospital, but she didn't know like the number of it, the address of it. She didn't know how to contact them, so she could have at least done a little bit of search on her own and called that specific counselor that she dealt with. But no, it didn't even have the counselor's name. And like I said, that same day that she was released. Remember, her evaluation was at 3. She was then released at 3:53 p.m. that day. Just an hour, not even a full hour she was there for that kind of stuff. And sadly, she was released to her sister with no follow-up appointment to check on how she was doing mentally or anything like that. And, you know, it didn't even click to them to at least like, hey, you know what, let's call the person that brought her in, or said like, hey, you know what, can you double check on that? They didn't even let her, you know, primary person that she was talking to know that, hey, we let her know, we let her go, she doesn't have nothing but this, that's all. And it's not, obviously, you know, after being released, her mental health just fucking deteriorated. It went bad. The voices in her head got worse, and by then the voices were telling Otty that the devil was inside her baby. So Otty would say that she would avoid looking into her child's eyes, her little baby boy's eyes, because she was afraid that as soon as she made eye contact with her baby, that she would see the devil in him. Imagine hearing that. Imagine like someone telling you that they were afraid to see the devil in their child's eyes. It doesn't matter how old that child is, you know, like, get them help. They need help. Like, they need help. So, after 5 days of being released from the hospital, she and Big Scott, you know, would get into it again. And this time she was starting to accuse of Scott's mom of wanting to steal the baby, and she was just being, you know, again, paranoid to the max. There was reports that Scott's mom would tell her like, hey, go get help, I'll go with you, take the baby with you for you can get evaluated right and stuff like that. But no, Otty thought that Scott's mom was wanting to steal her baby, and it made it worse when Scott asked for like his social and his birth certificate, and nobody knew why he was asking for that. Some said like it was for work for the insurance, or for like you know, for insurance for him or insurance for the work or something like that. But she started, you know, bugging out more because he was asking for that. So a lot of things clicked in her mind, like, okay, yeah, now they're both working together to steal my baby. And so obviously already panicking and paranoid, she ended up getting the baby that was in the car seat. He was strapped to his car seat, thank God. And she ended up just tossing little baby Scotty into the front passenger seat in the car, but not even buckling him into the seat. He was just strapped into his car seat. And trying to get away from this big ordeal that was going around with Scotty and his mom, she just bolted out of there. And sadly, that same night, she ended up attacking little baby Scotty. And in the autopsy, after the whole thing went down, it revealed that Scotty was mutilated in his genitals. His head was nearly cut off, and there was parts of his brain missing. Like I said, she ate some of his brains, and he was missing 2 toes because she ate those 3 toes. She ate those 3 toes. And she ended up, the coroner report also stated that baby Scotty's body had multiple bite marks all around. And the crazy thing about this, that when the whole thing was going down, Otty's niece and nephew, or you know, her sister's kids were in the next room, knocked out. So like, imagine if the kids woke up and they saw this whole ordeal going down. Like a lot of things come to your mente. Like, either they could have faced the same possible thing, or like they would have just saw what was going down with their little cousin. And obviously she was charged with capital murder, and her bond, after she was sent to the hospital, because during this ordeal attacking her son, she felt the guiltiness, you know, of what was happening, and it hit her what she did to her child. She ended up stabbing herself once in the chest and in the stomach. So after she was done getting evaluated in the hospital, getting help, she was then charged with capital murder, and her bond was set to $1 million. And during all this, she was seen by 3 different psychologists, and they all agreed that Otty was incapable to tell the difference between reality and her delusions, and as well as, you know, her severe paranoia taking over what happened to her son. And in court, during her evaluation, Otty stated that the voices told her to eat her baby's insides because she was being punished for being a harlot. The voices were telling her that. And that there was a demon in her stomach, and the only way for the demon to come out was for her to sacrifice her baby. But in a specific way that she had to eat her baby's insides, and all this had to be done by 5 in the morning. And it was literally done a couple minutes before 5 in the morning. That's when the 911 call was made, you know, because the family ended up finding that. And she also stated that when she was trying to explain how everything went down, she would say that while she was eating her child, she knew it was wrong, it was disgusting, it was degrading, that during that time that she was gagging while eating her baby. No. So a year later, on the 30th of June of 2010, Otty was found not guilty by reason of insanity, which, I mean, thank God. Like I said before, I don't think it's any excuse to do whatever you did because of your mental issues. You always have to pay the consequences, and that's either going to jail or getting help and staying in that facility that you're getting help in. So that's what happened with her. She ended up, you know, being not guilty, and because of the insanity, and she is currently still to this day still serving time in a mental health facility for the rest of her life. So yeah, that is the case of Otty Sanchez and little baby Scott. That was on a whole nother level. And you know, the thing is, sadly, 1 out of 10 women, right after, say, 48 to 72 hours after giving birth, they end up developing postpartum depression, which includes symptoms of feeling numb, crying, insomnia, guilt, appetite change, where you either lose a lot of weight in one hit or gain a lot of weight, and long-lasting feeling of sadness, the baby blues, and physical pains and aches, trouble concentrating, and sadly also thoughts of self-harm or harming your babies. And sometimes those thoughts take you to also harming the rest of your family. So this other sad part about this as well is that women who have a history already of schizophrenia, postpartum depression are at a higher risk of these symptoms. So I beg you, te ruego, please, if you have a friend, a family friend, who are pretty soon going to be either expecting or going to be, you know, popping out soon with their baby, or even having a child under 2 years old, check up on them, because it's crucial. It's not a joke, and I am tired of people walking around it like you can't talk about it. We need to talk about it, because how the hell do you expect one to stay sane? And it doesn't help either that our now era think that, or just a long time now, that people think all the responsibilities of a child is just a woman's job. No, it's both the mother and the father's, or her little village that's helping her, you know. So please check on those who are soon expecting or about to pop, or just still have a child under 2, because those symptoms can still last. We women know how to mask things. We women know how to play the part of a happy family, you know, play the part of like nothing's wrong. Just check on them. Shit, if you go over or visit them, take them a glass of wine, take them a 6-pack of fucking Twisted Teas or something, you know. Not sponsored, but just go and help them. Go check on them. Make sure they're okay, because this is not a joke. And sadly, Otty did take a lot of precautions to get help, and sadly it was the health system that failed her. So like I said, check up on one another. Do your part on that. So yeah, like I said, check up on each other. Do your part. Please do your part. It doesn't matter who it is, just check on them. It doesn't hurt to check on them. So yeah, so thank you so much for stopping by again. I hope you liked today's video. Not like that, but it was entertaining and informative enough for you. And please go ahead and like and subscribe. And yeah that's all I can say is yeah. So be smart, be safe, and have fun. See you in the next one.